There's one thing that I appreciate. It's having a friend with a machine shop, but even more so, having a friend with a machine shop that lets me store my machine in it. All right, we're making the little hooks for the turnbuckle project for this Banjo hardware restoration. So I've already, let me get ready and we'll get into it. Okay, so we're making these little hooks. So I've started by threading the ends of a bunch of bits of rod and doing that in the lathe just manually. But the lathe is basically just holding the rod, making it very easy to hold the rod. So we're going to be trying to form a little hook on the end. These obviously got to get chopped, but that's pretty darn close. So I thought the best thing to do is to thread first and then form the hook. So I made all my right hand thread ones are done here. Now I'm on my left hand threads. Just got a couple of those. Now if you recall, the left hand threads we're using our shop made die for doing that. So let me show you over on the lathe how we're doing this. So I've got this little ER32 collet to hold our rod in. And what I've been doing is leaving it choked up and then using the chamfering bit here on the tool post to just knock a taper on there for the purposes of threading. And then I've got this tailstock die holder I picked up. And that's our shop made die in there. So that works really nicely. This was a score. I took a chance on buying the cheapest tailstock die holder that Amazon could produce for me at, I think I paid 30 bucks for it. And I knew at 30 bucks I was taking there was a strong likelihood that I would be getting a tailstock die holder kit, basically. But I thought that'd be worth trying. And I'm not disappointed. I mean, it's all the fit and finish is all really good, except for this handle. The way this handle threads in is garbage, but I mean, I really don't care about that. But otherwise, it's everything about it's really nice. So it came with several collars to hold different size dies. And then this one's reversible. So I've got the smallest one in there, and I had to shim it out with just a little bit of brass shim stock in order to center up the size of die that I'd made. So I've got a little scale here, and what I was doing was let's see, is that buttered up? What I was doing was using it to size my oop. Guess we're down to the last one on that. That's why I stopped. All right, let me get another piece of stock. Okay, so I got a fresh piece of brass here. I'm just trying to slip that in. Boy, this thing is so much right on the money that it's hard to, there we go. It's hard to get it in if it is not right dead straight on. So I guess I'll have to start with chamfering that off. So let's do that quick. Go start with a starting chamfer, and then I gotta back this guy off all the way to get out of the way. So I slide in my tailstock, and I've got my little gauge here that's normally set up to give us a length just for consistency's sake. And then I've got the little T end of this marked so that I get my thread length. So I just give myself a little mark there. That's all there is to that. Drop cutting oil. A little pressure from the tailstock. And then I can turn either one of these. Oh yeah, that's right. So this is a left-handed thread, so we got to go the other way. So I'm being careful to break my chip frequently because I don't know how long this die is going to last. I do have a second one, don't forget, so that's nice. And this one is definitely a little tighter than the commercially made ones because I guess there's really not enough relief built into this one because this was based off the tapping die, which would have been made ever so slightly smaller than a threading die just to give yourself a bit of wiggle room. So don't know how this will all play out in the finished product, but hopefully it works out okay. Get a little spinning here. If this lathe could slow right down, I would consider power feeding. But, well, not with the homemade die. I don't think that would be dumb. This thing doesn't get very slow though. I think what's my slowest speed? Like 160? Well, I guess that's pretty slow. Doesn't feel like it's slow enough for threading dies though. That's for sure. Okay, so there you go, my threading limit. I'll just spin her out. It's probably faster for me to. Yeah, that's way faster. Okay, so now I just need to chop that off. So here's my bending jig, which is pretty darn janky, and it's because I went through several iterations to try and figure it out. So we'll just have to chop these off to match the other hooks, but otherwise that's pretty darn good. Bit of a burr there. I'm gonna have to figure out how to soften this up a little bit, I guess. Other than that, that's looking fine. Oh, it's on the back side. Good to know. All right, another success. Okay, then I found my little bending jig here. If I line the threads up with the end of the nut that comprises this jig, that's just about the right spot. And as I do the bend, it pulls the nut in a little ways. There we go. I think the annealing's important. I mean, it would probably bend without annealing. I didn't really actually try. You know what? Let's try it. There's a bit that's unannealed. I'm more worried about wrecking my jig because I only got the one. I don't want to trash it. No, I'm not going to mess with it. Sometimes you got to know when to just suck up the extra time and not fret about it. It took way longer to build the jig than it did to do some annealing. So far I'm quite happy with how these are working out. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do for chopping them to length and finishing the shape yet, but one step at a time. I suppose I could have chopped them to length before, but yeah, I don't think I would get the length just right. And if my bending jig falls off the end of the hook, that's really screws me up. Hey, so there's all the right-handed hooks done. So there's an original right there. So I notice the threads are different because I've used well, I used a commercially available thread for that, and this one I know is a wonky doodle thread, whatever it is. This is 632, and that's, I don't know. You tell me. I didn't measure it. I should have done that. But I know it's going to be like some weird British thread. Anneal and bend all the left-hand jobs. Wouldn't you freaking know it? My jig died. This little tab that holds the hook, the body of the hook, while it gets bent around, it just started to peel off. And I managed to get one or two more hooks out of it before it finally just stopped staying put. So now I got to figure out what to do about that. And the problem is I thought about can I machine this down lower and put another thing on? But the way the rest of this goes, I can't even feed this in with my little bending lever in place because it has to overhang this guy a little bit. So I need to rethink the jig somehow so that I can just slide that in there and keep going. So I think I don't know. Maybe I'll try turning the threads right off of there so I can just slide up into it and machine these bits down further so that it can get some new purchase. Oh man, what a pain. So close. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them left to go. Okay, we've got bending jig 2.0. It's really sloppy welds. My welds, I don't know what was going on with my welder. I could not get it. I just did not want to lay down a nice bead today for whatever reason. Anyhow, so far this is working pretty good. It's dragging a little more than the last one did, so I got to be a bit more careful about where I set up my start point to have it land where I want it to. Man, I am having a bad round of luck today. Just lost the little pin that makes up I put a piece of drill rod in the leading edge of this so I had a hardened surface that this bears against as it bends, and I tried welding it on, but again, nothing wanted to stick today for some weird reason. Did everything right, but nothing went right. Anyhow, this is working pretty darn good. Okay, there we go. Last one. Nice. And well, hopefully those all work out. What's funny is I think it was faster making this one than it was making the first janky. Faster making this one, which worked a million times better than the first janky ass one. But sometimes you got to make the janky one to figure out how to do the better one. Anyhow, don't know if I'll ever use that again, but we'll stick it in the pile. So my next task then is to come up with a good way to trim all these guys off. Probably just use my little metal cutting bandsaw to buzz those guys off at the right length. And then we'll just use the belt sander to zip them down to whatever that is. Okay, so here's my little cutoff jig. Real simple, really janky. Just drop one of our hooks on here, snug it up until it touches this little piece of sheet metal here. And then I just buzz it off on the bandsaw right where that cut line is, and this little piece of steel helps to keep me from hitting the other side of it, obviously, but it also acts as my stop. So that's just glued in. Nothing fancy here, just quick and dirty. All right, my last operation is forming a little flattening off the ends of the hooks here, like so. So I came up with this real simple jig, so just a just a hole in the end of a stick. I drop my hook into it, a little bit protruding. We just hit this over on the belt sander until we touch the face of the stick, and then we're done. So when these come off the belt sander, they're smoking hot. You can see how they're burning the little jigs. So I gotta pop them out with an awl and drop them into a container of water. So there's our finished tensioning hook. It's the original. Not too shabby. I'm pretty happy with my results. I learned a lot on this little project. If nothing else, one thing I learned is that I should probably have not tried to make my own threading die. I should have just sprung for the commercially made one. It was, if you recall, I made a left-hand threading die, and the reason I did that is because the commercial one was like 50 bucks, and I was feeling like a cheapskate because I really not making money off of this project. I'm sort of doing it as a favor, so I didn't want to outlay too much cash. It was enough that I was spending money on brass and stuff like that. So, which was dumb because I would have gotten done way faster, and as a result my left hand threads are like super tight. I mean, they work, but just. And what I've been doing is I've been using, I can't find it, I've been using some I was putting some valve lapping paste onto the threads and working them back and forth with a wrench to loosen them up, and that's helped, but they still need more. So in hindsight, that was really dumb to not just buy the die, but you know, live and learn, right? and learning to make a die. That was actually kind of interesting. Although not 100% successful, unfortunately. So that's that project out of the way. The thing I had to do for Alex was make this tiny little screw right there. Did that on the lathe, single point threading it. And these are for actually the string. These screw into the tension hoop, and then these are basically the tailpiece. The strings drop onto those. So Alex just needed one fixed up. One of them was missing, I think. Of course, I had to make like 4 to get one that worked out in the end.
I cut a tapered on that thing. That is vexing.
The next project is doing reproductions of these tuners. These are probably from like the 1800s. Got a pretty good start on them. A lot less, much smaller learning curve on these ones for sure. But just got to turn the little post on the ends here, and then those are pretty close to done. And these, again, I'm doing these as a favor. Not making any money on these things. Anyway, but those are kind of fun to reproduce.